What up, y'all? Episode 104 of Sucio Sports presented by Dubby Energy. You already know how we like to kick it off during football season, baby. Let's get it. Hold up, we having a little motherfucking technical difficulty in this bitch. And I'm fucking up. Anyway, do what it's supposed to do. Oh, that's why. Let me see. Hold up. Let me see now. That's probably what the fuck happened yesterday. So my dumbass figured out what the technical difficulty was. I had the volume turned all the way down on the board. You see, yesterday when we was doing Gresham Unleashed, like I thought I had it right. And I must have messed it up there too. Because at first Gresham was like, oh, I can't hear you, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. And I unplugged the soundboard, just plugged straight into the computer with the headphones, and I was like, okay, now I'm good. It turns out I don't know how I did that, because normally when I unplug the board, I put it over in the corner of my room where I keep my stuff at. So just to make sure like I don't mess with nothing, I don't mess with none of the settings or anything like that. I even put the board sometimes like behind my TV just to make sure I don't fool with it throughout the week. But excuse me, shit. It is what it is, man. Shit happens. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Um, we had a pretty eventful week. You know what I'm saying? What up, y'all? Everybody chiming in. But yeah, man, this shit was crazy. Like, so we got the two longest tenured head coaches in the NFL. Uh, one was fired and one decided to walk away. Like that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me because it's the same thing. Like I tell people when it comes to coaches, when it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL. Um, if you have a good one, keep them. It don't matter if they're great. It don't matter if they're transcendent. It don't matter if they're Hall of Fame worthy. It don't. None of that matters, right? None of that matters. The only thing that matters is can they get the job done. When we talk about getting the job done, we're talking about winning games, playoff appearances, winning in the playoffs, and God, hopefully winning a Super Bowl or something in a period of time. But more than likely, bare minimum, you want your team to win games and at least make the playoffs. And that's something that Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh have done consistently throughout their almost 2 decades uh, with their respective teams. However, fans in both fan bases started to feel like those guys weren't getting it done any longer and called for a change. And now that you have this change, I think what's really going to happen is, and I would hate this for both fan bases, but if you don't get this hire right, especially with the Ravens, because the Ravens have mostly everything in place. I mean, your running back is one of the physical freaks of football. Even though he's on the wrong side of 30, he still doesn't look like he's slowing down anytime soon. And the only regression we've seen in Derrick Henry's game lately is he's put the ball on the floor a few times. You have an MVP caliber quarterback, so that's like half your problem gone right there. Your defense is strong. You have some weapons here and there. There's things that you have in place to win now. So I could see why the fan base would be upset. But to say we're going to get rid of a coach who's been to the playoffs 12 out of his 18 years, won a Super Bowl here, um, has just been tremendous. And a lot of the times it was a guy that when he was first hired, I know I'm not gonna lie, I was one of those people, man. Y'all hired the Eagles special teams coordinator? What the fuck? Like I know people were thinking that. I know people were thinking that. But you gotta realize, like sometimes you have to look beyond what's on a person's resume. And a lot of the times I feel like it's some of those things that it's some of those things that like happen in real life to real life people, you know? You'll get these things where um people will say, "Oh, you need to have X amount of experience and you need to have this degree and you need to have all of this, and this training and all these years of experience and all this stuff." And oftentimes I wonder, I'm like, where does one go to acquire said years of experience to get this entry level position if I can't get an entry level position, right? So sometimes fans will think, well, he's never been a coordinator, or he's never been a coach, or he's never been a head coach, he's never been this, he's never been that. It doesn't matter. What matters is there are sometimes people are good leaders of men and good managers. You also have to know what you don't know. And a lot of the times, guys at the NFL level and head coaches and different, other jobs and stuff like that, they get hired because of different reasons. And for those reasons, John Harbaugh was a great hire for the Ravens, and he proved to be with his track record. And because one man's trash is always going to be another man's treasure, the minute he was let go, he was getting phone calls. Hell, there was even a rumor that the Dolphins called to kick the tires on John Harbaugh before they officially let go of Mike McDaniel. So that just goes to show you, like, the teams will do whatever. And even though Mike Tomlin has 2 years left on his contract and the Steelers still own his rights, the team would technically have to give them compensation in order to gain his rights. Teams are still calling Mike Tomlin. Even though Mike Tomlin has said he's taking a year off from coaching, he's not going to coach this year. He's going to take some time off and get away from coaching, period. Teams are still going to kick the tires on it because he's that successful of a coach and he's that highly respected and that highly thought of. So the coaching cycle this year is wide open. There's a ton of jobs that's open on this cycle. There's also some that are some people may consider some more appealing or what have you. You can rank them however you decide to rank them. I just know that an NFL head coaching job is a great job to have. There's only a handful of them in the league, and if one should be so blessed to have one of those jobs, then you should consider yourself fortunate. And it's a thing where there's only 32 of them, right? So anytime there's only 32 of something, it's an extreme rare thing to have and to hold on to. And if you're one of the people that's fortunate enough to grab one of those, you want to hold on to it as long as possible. You'll do whatever you can to hold on to one of those. Pretty much any coaching job in the NFL is a great gig to have. But it's just that these fan bases sometimes really piss me off and it really like upsets me because it's like, okay, you're not happy with the results that you're getting from this coach. Well, who are you going to bring in that's going to get you the desired result? Who do you think you can bring in to get the desired result that you're looking for since you're not getting the desired result that you're looking for from the current coach that you have? How are you going to improve upon what you already got? And that's the biggest thing about people who want to get rid of their coaches or people who want to not pay or change quarterbacks or whatever. How are you going to replace what you already have? If you have something that's decent to good or whatever, and you think that you can do better, okay, by all means, go ahead. That's your God given right to want to improve upon your situation. Cool. But when the pickings are so slim and you're looking at, because like NFL jobs, coaches and quarterbacks, there's only 32 head coaches and 32 starting quarterbacks, right? whenever you have a frame of reference or a field that's so thin, there's only 32 of those in the world. Do you honestly think that you're going to find someone out there who's much better than what you already have immediately and in the time frame of which you're looking for? And do you think that that person that you find to replace the one that you already have is going to be marginally better than the one you had before to justify making that move? Nine times out of 10, it's proven that it doesn't happen, and you can't find someone better. Teams who typically make these kinds of moves never really recover from making these kind of moves. Perfect example back in the early mid 90s, Jerry Jones got rid of Jimmy Johnson, replaced him with Barry Switzer. They went on to win a Super Bowl and have not done much of nothing since. Um, I remember when Pat Riley stepped in for the Miami Heat to coach the team. Yeah, they won the title, but then what did they do after that? Pat Riley eventually wore thin with everybody. He had to bring in Spoelstra. Now, Spoelstra's done a really good job. But I mean, when you get rid of a good coach and you run him out of town because he isn't what you want him to be, what do you do after that? Now, the only time I have seen it work in recent years was oh gosh, who was it? The Toronto Raptors when they won that finals, right? Oh boy, hold up. I hate when I do that because like I have like these screens open and then like I'll press something on my phone where I screw up and don't remember how I did it or whatever. But yeah, but yeah, it was the Raptors. I'm trying to look and see. Yeah, it was Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse was the coach. That's right, Nick Nurse. Okay, so it was Nick Nurse, right? The year before, they had Dwayne Casey. I want to say that was the year Dwayne Casey actually won Coach of the Year, and they still got rid of him. Let me look this up right quick. Yeah, he was Coach of the Year that year, and they got rid of him. The very next year, they end up winning the NBA title. That is the only time I've ever seen a pro sports team have a really solid coach, get rid of him, and immediately hire someone who is that much better. The only time I saw that happen. Coincidentally, that also coincided with them trading for and getting Kawhi Leonard that following season. So there is that little caveat to throw in there. Now, I do not recall this happening on the NFL level, and a lot of the times I don't even count if it happened on the MLB level, simply because Major League Baseball managers, out of 162 games, a manager may make a difference in a team winning, I would say, less than 10% of those games, somewhere between, well, around 5% of those games, maybe 10% if they're lucky. The manager will directly affect the outcome by making decisions. It's more about the execution of the players on the field and in the batter's box than anything. But in the NFL and the NBA, the coaches are more directly involved in the strategy of the game and execution of it because they come up with the plays and everything else. So, but yeah, I just don't get it, man. I really don't get it. And I hear a lot of fans complaining about their quarterback play, mainly because I'm here in Houston. I hear a lot of Texans fans complain about it. I hear a lot of Cowboys fans complaining about their quarterback and Dak. Um, One of the other things that I hear people complaining about quarterbacks but that I'll say this, that I don't hear enough of, that we should hear more of, is about Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Justin Herbert is 0-3 in the playoffs. I want to say he's like 58 out of 106 with 4 interceptions and like 1 touchdown or something like that. He was part of that Chargers team who blew that 27-0 lead to the Jags. The Texans picked him off. I think all 4 of those picks came in that game last year against the Texans, and then he had this awful game against the Patriots this past weekend. Now, this past weekend's loss to the Patriots, I kind of give him a pass for that because both of his starting tackles were out for the season way at the beginning of the year. So he was fighting at a disadvantage from the get go. And I want to say from the center, the right guard, and the right tackle, all of those guys were either the worst or second worst graded at their respective positions according to PFF. And I put some stock, I don't put a whole lot of stock in PFF's grade, but I mean, if you're ranked that low on your position rankings, whatever grading system they decide to use and however they go about grading it and putting that out there, if you're last, the second to last, third to last, or whatever it is, in your position rankings, you're pretty fucking terrible. And that means your quarterback is going to be fighting for his life, whole hell of a lot. So I give him props for that, but at the same time, it's like him being talked about and propped up as one of the better young quarterbacks in this league. Does he have the talent? Yes, he does. However, I need to see what he's going to do next year when Alt and Slater are back at right and left tackle respectively, because Alt was their, I want to say he was their left tackle and they moved him to right, or they brought him in at right tackle. Anyway, Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Joe Alt played left tackle, but they moved him to right tackle because of Slater. So when Slater got hurt, they moved Alt to left tackle to help protect Herbert's blind side, and then he got hurt. I want to say it was an ankle injury, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, Next thing you know, he's out for the season. And I'm just like, when are we going to start holding his feet to the fire the way we hold a lot of these other guys' feet to the fire? I see Josh Allen, who just won an MVP last year, who's won playoff games, who's taken his team to the AFC title game, get more criticism about his playoff performances. He and Lamar Jackson have gotten way more criticism about their playoff performances than Justin Herbert had. Now, granted, those guys have had more opportunities to make waves in the playoffs than Herbert has, but at the same time, it's like, when are we going to take the kid gloves off and start calling it for what it is? It's like Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback and he has a hell of a lot of talent. We just need him to step up and show and prove. And as of right now, to me, Josh Allen had, I think, a better year this year than he had last year when he won MVP. Because he was working at a greater disadvantage this year than he was last year as far as weapons are concerned. And I just really think that, he's he's gotta he's gotta show it now because there is no Mahomes, there is no Lamar standing in your way on the other side of that quarterback battle. But there are some good defenses left in this playoff. The Broncos, the Texans, and the Patriots all have killer defense. So what he can do against the Broncos this weekend, and then if he can get past the Broncos, whoever he faces out of that Texans Patriots game, he's gonna have to show like, yeah, I can step up and I can still put this team on my back. And it's gonna be even more difficult because they're down to 3 healthy wide receivers on their roster right now. Brandon Cooks, Keon Coleman, and I want to say Khalil Shakir. Uh, Shavers and Gabe Davis are both out. I believe Gabe Davis tore his ACL, and I can't remember what happened to Shavers. But yeah, both of those guys are going to miss the rest of the playoff pretty much. So they're going to be looking for more help off the practice squad, free agency, what have you, for wide receiver help for this weekend. Um, that Broncos team has been sitting there marinating, and that defense is ridiculous. So if Josh Allen can go to Mile High and take on that Broncos defense and come out victorious, that's going to get a monkey off his back. But I think that he has to have a Super Bowl appearance in order for him to truly like get the monkey off his back and quiet the critics. Um, As far as Bo Nix and the Broncos are concerned, I think that that team really does have a good shot at making it to the Super Bowl because they secured home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The defenses win championship, offenses sell tickets, and that team has a ridiculous defense. They're relatively healthy as well, so that's going to bode well for them. Um, I'm looking forward to that matchup this weekend, and I do see the Broncos winning simply because I don't think Josh Allen will have enough firepower to overcome that defense. I know most people may think that that sounds crazy, but they've been having Keon Coleman been a healthy scratch for different games this year um, because of his different off the field issues, showing up late to meetings and not really putting forth the effort that you're supposed to as a professional. Uh, Love the kid, love his attitude. He has a great personality, but you gotta get the professionalism down. You're at this level now. You have to show more. You have to show more like development and not just running routes or catching balls, this and that, learning plays, blocking, and all that. Talking about personal development, the kind that separates you from the rest of the pack, especially coming in as a first round pick, a guy who they saw as highly skilled and talented and wanted to make a huge part of this offense. Like it's time to start putting the childish ways aside and stepping up to the plate. So we'll see how that develops. But I won't be surprised if the Bills win. I just feel like with them being down so many receivers and them having to bring in at least one or two guys that they don't really have chemistry with, um, and seeing that offense struggle at various times this year going up against that Broncos defense, I just feel like the Bills won't have enough. And I don't think that their defense is solid enough to create the kind of turnovers that they may need in order to give their offense more chances to beat that Broncos team. So that's the kind of way I see that one playing out. In the other game, Texans Patriots in the AFC, um, I'm really I'm really leaning towards the Texans simply because that defense is so nasty. And even living here and hearing people talk about them and seeing them up close in person week after week, it's still hard to believe that that team is doing some of the things that they're doing on the defensive end of the football. Drake Mays, MVP candidate this year, had a great season, but when you have a front four that can get to the quarterback so quickly and push and collapse that pocket so easily, and you can drop seven guys into coverage and do all kind of other stuff with the back seven, it's ridiculous. And I think one of the descriptions I read, and I hate that I didn't bookmark it to get. Let me see if I bookmarked it to give whoever it was credit. Um, but it was insane. This description I heard. It was like the Texans defense is a bunch of velociraptors running around with AK-47, and that was one of the best descriptions I could think of that I heard for the way that that defense plays because they play fast, they play hard, they literally I know there's Texans swarm is their thing, but they literally swarm to the ball. Um, they're tough. They play through the whistle. And I know sometimes people may think that um, Al Shair Aziz Al Shair, I'm sorry, maybe a dirty player, quote unquote, but give me a guy who's going to teeter totter and walk that fine line between playing hard and playing dirty than someone who's always just going to play safe and play fair. I'd rather have a guy who kind of teeter totters and who kind of like walks that line between playing fair and playing dirty. Um, because at least with that guy, and I know he's going to go all out. And the thing about it is you can say what you want and think that he has all these ill intentions, and he's not that kind of person. As a matter of fact, he was the team's nominee for a Walter Payton Man of the Year award because of the work that he does in the community. And if you looked at the post game press conference, he has "Stop the Genocide" written on his eye black. Uh, if you didn't know, Aziz Al Shair is a very committed practicing Muslim. He does a whole hell of a lot for the Muslim community here in Houston. Is very outspoken, very community oriented, very good dude, very grounded in his faith, and he really pursues that wholeheartedly. And I know a good friend of mine who's also a Muslim here in the Houston community that truly like appreciates what Aziz does and really looks up to him for the work that he puts in. And just to see what he does for that community and how much he means to that community lets me know and how much his teammates love him and how much ownership loves him and how highly he speaks of D'Amico and vice versa. Um, it was just one of those things where you knew that that was going to be a guy once D'Amico brought him in. I didn't even think that he would be this good as crucial of a piece to this defense. I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I love him. Sideline to sideline, no seatbelt. Uh, shout out to Travis Johnson, Trap. But that's the way Aziz plays, and I'm like, okay, cool. They got a really good athletic linebacker that D'Amico can use in this defense in a myriad of ways. Like this is going to be great. Like hopefully he can mentor some of these young guys and get them going. And I thought Christian Harris, the guy that they got from Bama, was going to be one of the guys that was going to be a star of this defense. I didn't think Henry To'oTo'o was going to be as good as he was. And just to see the production from those two guys at the linebacker position for this team has been impressive. Also been really impressed with the DBs, Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock. Those two guys came in as young players and asserted themselves right off the bat. Uh, a lot of people didn't know or didn't think that Jalen Petrie would have a way in his defense, and I kind of thought like I was like, man, I'm kind of scared of him them putting him in that nickel spot because he has his challenges in coverage. And to his credit, Jalen Petrie has greatly improved his coverage skills to the point where he's one of the top nickelbacks in the league right now. Because of his ability to cover running backs, tight ends, even sometimes wide receivers in that slot position, or to play safety, to move around that defense in that defensive backfield and just do whatever it is they call and ask for him to do. He's been a real Swiss Army knife for that defense, and I love watching that kid play. New England's defense really ran roughshod over the Chargers because their offensive line wasn't good. Now the Texans, even though they've had their challenges along the offensive front this year, reshuffling and retooling, um, I still think that they're better than what the Chargers have. So will we see? Excuse me. Will we see another turnover prone performance from C.J. Stroud? I doubt it because despite what people may think and what they're talking about, some people in the fan base and in the media and whatnot, Stroud has not had a year where he's fumbled the ball and turned the ball over a ton. Now he has had some what the hell throws and interceptions, but not the fumble. So that whole center quarterback exchange fumbling thing and him just generally fumbling, I don't think that we're gonna get that this week. Um, he may throw one of those what the hell interceptions, but I think that after the way he played this past week on Monday Night Football against the Steelers in Pittsburgh, I don't think that we'll get a repeat performance of that from C.J. Stroud this week against the Patriots. Even though the Patriots have a really good defense, similarly to what the Pittsburgh Steelers have, I don't think that we'll see a repeat performance of him. What the Texans are going to have to do and watch out for is the Patriots' run game and the Patriots getting the ball to those running backs out the backfield. Now, getting the ball to the running backs out the backfield is something I'm not as concerned about, but that run game, Texans have been prone to the run game, giving up big plays on the ground. The Steelers tried to do it. They also tried to do it with the quick passing game. They didn't make any adjustments. The Texans adjusted and they shut all that shit down. However, with the Patriots, they block better up front, so you won't get to them, Drake May, as easily. Those corners and the safeties and linebackers are going to have to cover a little bit longer than what they're used to. But if they can somehow contain that offense, especially that run game, to shut down that play action game and to shut down those shots that Drake May will take deep down the field, especially some of those out breaking routes and whatnot, where he has those receivers that will hold on to the ball and will catch the ball. I think that the Texans will give themselves a shot. However, if they continue to shoot themselves in the foot on offense, the Patriots are going to definitely take advantage of it. Underestimated move of the week by the Patriots was signing Darrell Taylor, former Texans defensive end, to their team. Texans had to cut Taylor Monday morning or so, or Sunday night, Monday, somewhere right before the game with the Steelers, to make room for Jalen Reed because they felt like they needed more depth in their defensive backfield. By this being the playoffs, rosters are set. They couldn't really do much. They had to cut him and bring in Jalen Reed. They felt like they have enough depth on the D line. They needed more depth at DB. The Patriots end up signing Darrell Taylor this week. Great move by them. Love the move. Cheers to them for that move. But I love that kind of move because any competitive advantage that you can gain, of course, within the framework of the rules, do it. Me personally, I also subscribe to the theory of if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And it's only cheating when you get caught. So, hey, if you can try something that'll give you a competitive advantage that's within the framework of the rules and it works out, more power to you. Great. Happy for you. Um, Mike Vrabel has that team hitting on all cylinders. And that's going to be a really good matchup to watch on Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon, I say. So I'm really looking forward to what they can potentially do and how that game is going to turn out. But I think I got Texans Broncos in AFC Championship game next week is what I'm pretty much looking at. Over in the NFC, brother, we got some good games. And I'm talking about a divisional rivalry matchup with the 49ers and the Seahawks Saturday night. And then Sunday afternoon, late Sunday afternoon, we got Rams Bears. Now, that Seattle San Francisco game, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I got the Seahawks winning, man. The 49ers just way too banged up, and I know Fred Warner is trying to push to come back for that game. Even if Fred Warner is cleared and he can play, 75% of Fred Warner is better than 100% of a whole hell of a lot of linebackers in this league. 60% of Fred Warner is better than a shitload of linebackers in this league. And with them just having one of their other linebackers who really stepped up in a big way, I can't recall his name at this moment in time, but he just went down last week with a season-ending injury. So they really need Warner to come back just to give them an extra body to throw out there against the Seahawks. But the way that Seattle team has been playing on both sides of the ball, excuse me, I'm finding it hard to find a way that the 49ers can win that game unless they just shut down that run game, get a whole bunch of turnovers, and they jump on time. Sam Darnold starts fucking up and making mistakes that he hasn't been making all year. Um, JSN is dropping balls left and right, stuff that Seattle hasn't really done all year. The 49ers are going to have to force them into those kind of turnovers in order to have a shot at winning that game, I think. I think it's going to be a highly contested game. I think it'll be a really close game, but I ultimately have the Seahawks pulling that one out. Again, just because I believe in that defense. Same thing on the AFC side. I believe in Houston's defense more than New England's, and I believe in Buffalo's defense. I'm sorry, I believe in the Broncos defense more than Buffalo. So I'm picking the Seahawks over the 49ers in that one. With that Rams Bears game, I'm going with the Rams over the Bears. And the main reason why I'm picking the Rams over the Bears, even though the Bears are hosting that game uh, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, is because I believe in the Rams defense more than I believe in the Bears defense, but I also believe in Matthew Stafford more than I believe in Caleb Williams. The Bears have had to pull out a lot of late game victories this year and a lot of late game heroics and whatnot. And I just feel the difference in experience at quarterback uh, and just the style and the way that that Rams defense plays. I believe in them a little bit more than I believe in the Bears. And I think that with the experience of play callers and the experience of the triggermen for the Rams, I just put more faith in the experience that those guys have on that side. So we're gonna see Rams Seahawks in the NFC Championship and Texans Broncos in the AFC Championship next week. That's how I'm looking at it right now. If I'm wrong, hey, y'all know I'll be the first one to come on here and admit that I was wrong. But a lot of the times I'm not really that far off. when I look at games and I analyze them the way I do, because I'm not looking at it from a fan's perspective. I'm looking at it just, what do I see? What do I think? What do I prefer? How have these teams been performing this season? How have they performed historically the last couple of years with the iterations that they're currently in, so on and so forth? And I just look at it like, I feel as though the Texans, the Broncos, the Seahawks, and the Rams are better equipped at taking their opponents out than the Patriots, than the Bills, than the 49ers, and the Bears. Hey, if they put all these teams in a hat and drew different matchups, maybe I might pick different teams. But typically defense travels, and the four teams that I picked to win this weekend, I just have a little more faith in those defenses over the other defenses. So that's exactly why I picked the games the way I picked them. But yeah, we should get some really good games coming up. Um, Also looking forward to this national championship game. While we're on football, we'll just stay on football. Um, Between Miami and Indiana. Now, if you haven't been keeping up with uh college football, shame on you. But yeah, we got that game coming up Monday night. That's right, Monday night, 6:30. Now it's a home game for Miami because it's in Miami Gardens. It's at the Hard Rock. They don't have to travel. There's going to be a ton of Hurricane fans there, a ton of luminaries and celebrities and whatnot there. And basically, Indiana, even though they're favored by 8.5, they're like a de facto underdog in this game because they're going against a blue blood program in the national title game, a place they've never been, in this other team's backyard. Even though they're undefeated and they're clearly the best team in college football this whole year, leading up to this point, they've been pretty consistently good. They found a way to win games that they were out of, and they've consistently beaten teams that they should beat, and they've successfully handled teams that were set up to be in their way, and teams that people thought would be able to defeat them. They've slayed everybody, and they've come to this point. And shout out to Kirk Signetti for getting this accomplished in 2 years, right? At Indiana. Shout out to him for earning that extension, and shout out to him as well for garnering some NFL head coaching gig talk. Like some teams and fan bases are saying, "Hey, call Kirk Signetti, call Signetti, see what he would do, see what he would do." So shout out to him for that. But when you're going against a team in their backyard, it's supposed to be a neutral field, and there's this long storied history of this program, being that good, dating back to the late '80s. You can sometimes get fooled by that, and you can sometimes let that overtake you and let that mind fuck you basically into losing that game mentally before you've even stepped on the field to play it physically. I do not think that'll be the case with Indiana. I think Indiana is going in there with an underdog mentality, even though they're the favorite, the number one team, the undefeated team. I think that they're going in with the us against the world. Nobody thought that we could be here. Nobody thought that we should be here type of mentality. And I think that's going to lead them to a victory. Will it be close? Yes. And I've bounced back and forth on this because I just feel like when a team is on a roll, the way Miami is on a roll, it's hard to stop them. But you also have to think about the flaws that Miami has as a team, and sometimes they don't always play as consistently as they should. Um, just like last year when Cam Ward would throw them into situations and then throw them out of them, Carson Beck in that offense has kind of done the same thing. Even though Beck hasn't had like a ton of turnovers or anything like that this year per se, to say that he's been like just terrible or anything like that, I'm not saying that. But it's the fact that, I mean, he's had 11 interceptions this year, which is kind of a lot, to say you're in the national championship game. But still, in the grand scheme of things, I mean, they've had their issues, is what I'm trying to say. and they've had their ups and their downs, and they've had their struggles with consistency this season. And I think that that's going to come to a head against Indiana because despite Indiana having their struggles this season, their ups and downs, they've always consistently found a way to overcome them and win games. Miami has not done that. So that's why I'm picking Indiana. I know Indiana's favored by 8.5. I think it'll be a little bit tighter of a game. I think it'll be like it'll end up like a 31-27 type of game or something like that, or 27-24 or something like that. I think it'll be a one score game. I don't think it'll be a two score game. The number's right at 8.5, which is teasing a one score game. If you take, Miami and the point, kind of teasing a two score game if you take in Indiana in at 8.5. So it's right on the borderline of that, which I think it'll fall on. So if you want to take Miami in the point, if you looking for some gambling advice from me, um, I just feel like that team has a lot more to offer, and I think that riding the wave of playing at home and playing behind your home stadium with your fans and everything else, I think that that'll help them overcome some of what Indiana is going to bring. So that should be a great game, though. I'm looking forward to that one as well coming up on Monday. So it's like we got the NFL games on Sunday, we got the national championship on Monday. Everything is looking good for football as far as playoffs is concerned. Now shifting over to basketball, over in the NBA, just to update y'all real quick on the standings. In the East, the Pistons are still one, Knicks are still two, Celtics three, Raptors four, Sixers five, Magic at six. 7 through 10, you got the Cavs, Heat, Hawks, and Bulls. Now, with the Hawks pulling off the Trey Young trade, right, and sending him to the Wizards, I really think that this is going to actually be addition by subtraction because no longer do you have Trey Young and his impending return from injury or what have you, or coming into the lineup hanging over this team's head. Now, Jalen Johnson can go out there with a clear conscience knowing that this is his team and run it how he wants as far as being a primary ball handler, playmaker is concerned. Um, Pistons are still playing good ball. Their lead is only 3.5 now over the Knicks. Celtics have dropped back because they were at the 2 seed and now they're the 3 seed. Raptors are still holding strong, man, which is kind of shocking, and so is Philly. Orlando is starting to climb a little bit. Cleveland is still kind of floundering a little bit, and I didn't think that they would be struggling this much this year. But it's interesting to see. So just looking at the Eastern Conference, it's still kind of tight. Um, Whereas you have a game and a half separating fifth place from eighth place. Uh, so that's pretty tight. You also have a game and a half between the second place Knicks and the fourth place Raptors. So there's some tightness there. Some teams are well within each other's reach. But there's still a ton of the season left. We're right at the midway point right now where teams are playing right around the 41 game mark. Uh, so that trade deadline is going to be interesting coming up to see what teams make which moves and which moves help improve which teams. Over in the West, you got OKC still holding it down with a 6.5 game lead over the Spurs and the Nuggets. Spurs are still technically the 2 seed. Nuggets 3 seed. T Wolves at 4, Lakers at 5, Rockets at 6, and then 7 through 10, you got the Suns, Warriors, Blazers, and Grizzlies. Good to see the Grizzlies edging in there to make the playoffs since the Clippers were kind of in that spot. Um, OKC still having that 6.5 game lead after having such a terrible run that they had is very impressive. What's even more impressive is that between the 2 seed and the 7 seed, those teams are separated by 3 games. So literally, the Phoenix Suns at that 7 seed, if they go on a hot streak, like let's say an 11 game win streak, and any of those teams in front of them don't go more on a 3 game win streak at any point in time, and maybe lose a few games, the Phoenix Suns could go from being in the play-in to having home court advantage in the first round. That's what's crazy to me. Um, the teams at the bottom though, like Golden State in the 8th spot, is 2.5 games away from Phoenix in the 7th spot. So that's why I say, like, over in the West, it's a little bit more jumbled behind OKC. But what we've seen over the last few weeks is that teams have figured out OKC isn't this big scary monster. And I think that maybe they were riding the wave, but with Jalen Williams coming back from injury and San Antonio kind of giving everybody the blueprint, I think that OKC started to kind of smell their own shit a little bit, maybe, or teams were just looking at it like, okay, here's how we need to start attacking them, and then they went at it. And so that kind of it's kind of that moment like in Rocky Four where Drago gets punched and he starts bleeding, and it's like, look, he's cut, he's a man, he bleeds just like you, just like me. That's when you start getting in your head like, hey, this can happen. We can beat this team. They aren't invincible, you know? And teams start to believe that they can win those type of games. And so it's going to be interesting down the stretch, the rest of the season, the second half of the season, to see how teams play OKC and how they, come back and this and that. Um, Seeing teams like the Nuggets still hang in there with all that they've gone through, and seeing the Spurs come together with that young squad and develop has been interesting. Anthony Edwards is Anthony Edwards, and I mean the way that guy is playing this year has been lights out. Um, I know some people were saying that the Suns traded KD at one point. They were ranked just ahead of the Rockets in the standings, and people were like, they're better off without him, and this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, Alfred Şengün just came off missing like 2 weeks of the season, and he's their second best player. So I'm just saying, like, give it a little bit of a rest. Um, Anthony Davis news came out again. He has yet another injury. They thought he was going to need surgery, going to miss a few months, and then now it's saying he's not going to need surgery. However, the Mavericks are still engaged in trade talks to send him somewhere before this trade deadline is up. So I'm really interested to see where day to day Davis ends up. And if he does not need surgery, how quickly can he come back from this hand injury? Um, See what team he goes to and what he can provide for them if he can get and stay healthy. Uh, if that can be a game changer, depending on who they send him to. Uh, I know the Warriors were one of the teams that were interested, and I can't remember the other couple of teams that were interested, but I know the Warriors were definitely one of them that was in talks with the Mavericks. But we shall see how that ends up going. But even when Wemby was out, the Spurs weren't that bad of a team. So definitely look out for the Spurs because they have a young team. They have a very good defensive team, especially on the perimeter. Not just funneling everything to Wemby for him to get 2, 3, 4 blocks a game, but those guys on the perimeter can really defend, and that's part of the reason why they gave OKC so many fits this year in the 4 games that they've already played. Is because those guys on the perimeter can switch and really defend all of those positions. And then you're funneling everything towards Wemby, and then he's, erasing shit or making people change shots and whatnot. And so that defense is killer. And again, same thing with football. I love a good defense in basketball. I love a good team that can run and score the ball, but I also love a team that can play solid defense as well. So definitely look out for the Spurs. Um, Lakers have been so up and down this year, man. Like Luka's been playing out of his mind. Reeves has been playing out of his mind. The whole shit with LeBron and Rich Paul saying that the Lakers should trade Reeves to get a big man and all this other crap. Like sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up. Sometimes shutting up is better than saying whatever it is that's on your mind. And one of the biggest reasons why I feel like that is because like you making shit awkward in that locker room and you have clients on that team, namely LeBron. Why would you make shit awkward in that locker room on purpose? You're an agent, you're not a GM, and you shouldn't even be doing this kind of stuff because it's divisive and it makes you seem like it feeds into the narrative that you guys are trying to control the league and control the team and, be the de facto GM. Just say, hey, you know what? Talking to my guys on that team, they would love to get some help. They would love to make a move or do this and do that. I'm just gonna sit back and watch and see what happens. there's no need to say specifics and specific names in specific trades. That was just asinine. It was stupid. It was uncalled for. LeBron, of course, had to play a PR person for his agent and basically deflect and say, "Nah, Reeves is my guy." Blah blah blah. If I was him, I call Rich Paul over to the crib or whatever and slap him upside his head. Man, shut the fuck up and stop doing stupid shit like that. You know, a lot of the times this feeds the narrative where people say, and I know there's other things socially, politically, financially, whatever people say on these other podcasts that get them into trouble and say we need to take away all the podcast mics and whatnot. But stuff like this in sports is one of the reasons why some people do not need to have podcasts or don't need to be on podcasts because your contribution to the content creation world comes at a detriment to your main focus. And anytime you're a content creator, but your main job is something else, and your content creating starts to take away from your main job, that's when it's time for you to shut the fuck up. So, congrats to Rich Paul. He got our shut the fuck up award for this week. The ladies have started Unrivaled, um, and I just saw the commercial. They play on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. Because I couldn't remember the schedule last week when I had brought it up to talk about it briefly. But yeah, they play Friday through Monday on TNT or the Turner Sports Network, whatever, HBO Max, and all of that. So definitely going to be checking some more of their games out because I've seen some stupid performances. Like the other day, I want to say Chelsea Gray had like 41 of her team's like 70 points in a win. Um, Dewana Bonner had a big game. Alicia Gray had a big game, and somebody else had a crazy game just this past weekend. I can't remember, but those ladies are definitely killing it out there and unrivaled. Full court 3-on-3 is more fun to watch to me than the one-on-one stuff. I know Keys likes the one-on-one stuff. I prefer the 3-on-3 stuff. Um, so especially with these ladies because they're active athletes as opposed to the big three where it's a bunch of retired NBA players and it looks kind of clunky a little bit. I prefer these ladies over the men's big three simply because these ladies are active professional players. Again, like I said, where the other guys are, retired for several years NBA players. So it's cool to see those guys get back together and still have that competitive nature and spirit, but it's half court. It's one thing. They're much older, not as athletic. These ladies play full court 3-on-3, so I think that's pretty dope. So that's why I like that. As far as college basketball is concerned, um, man, this year I'm still okay. So biggest jumpers in the polls this week. We got Virginia jumping 7 spots up to number 16, and Florida jumping 7 spots into the top 25 this week. Biggest fallers. We had Bama dropping to number 18, and we had Tennessee and Georgia both dropping 3 spots in the poll. That's in the AP poll. You still got a couple undefeated teams, Arizona and Iowa State, Nebraska, Vandy, still undefeated. Shout out to them. Um, so you still got some teams that's undefeated. And got a whole bunch of teams with one loss, a whole bunch of teams with 2 losses. So we're still at that point of the season where there's a lot of teams that's still looking really good. Um, Water will find its level, and like I said last week, we're getting into conference schedule. So this is where we really start to see teams separate themselves and cut their teeth. Over on the ladies' side, rankings go. Oh yeah, Oklahoma did take I think they took 2 losses this week and dropped 8 spots. Iowa State dropped 8 spots also. Uh, OU is down to 13, and Iowa State is down to number 19. Bama's up to 21. They moved up 5 spots, and Ohio State moved up 5. I'm sorry, no. LSU, because they beat Texas. They actually jumped 6 spots, so they're the biggest gainer this week. LSU jumping up 6 spots. That was a good game too, man. They want to say they beat Texas 70-64 or something like that. Really good game. A little bit of controversy after that game. Teams didn't shake hands. I want to say it was that game or it was another game LSU. But no, it was a game LSU was involved with. Other team didn't want to shake hands. Um, the optics of that camera shot after that game looks like the other team were some sore losers. However, it came out and was said that both teams agreed not to shake hands as far as spreading the flu is concerned because there was a flu outbreak. I don't know if I'm really buying that, man. It seemed like a bunch of bullshit to me. But we're not in the inside of these discussions. We don't know. That could be, exactly what happened and exactly why they didn't shake hands. I don't know. It just seemed a little fishy to me. Um, that said, I'm still looking forward to the women's season, and I think that again, we have more top heaviness on the women's side of things than we do on the men's side of things. So I still think that there's only a handful of these ladies teams that I could see winning the national championship, as opposed to on the men's side. You could look at damn near anybody in that top 25 and throw a dart and say, okay, I can make an argument for this team winning the national title this year. Um, the women's side, it's a little bit more top heavy. I can see only a certain few teams winning it on that side, but still, there's one, two. We still got UConn. We still got Vandy. Vandy is undefeated in the men's and women's. Shout out to Vandy, man. Shout out to Vanderbilt. I'm just now realizing that both their men's and women's teams are still undefeated right now. So huge shout out to them. Um, but we still have a few teams on the women's side that's undefeated. There's more teams on the women's side in the women's rankings with like 2 or 3 losses as opposed to on the men's side. And again, not saying that the men's side is less or more competitive than the women's side. I'm just saying that when I look at national championship contenders, I see more of them on the men's side than I see on the women's side. It is what it is, and I'm just looking forward to tournament time and the conference tournament time, especially. And to me, sometimes the conference tournament is almost more exciting than the NCAA tournament because you'll get a team that'll upset a team that's tournament bound. That like that team's going to get a at large bid, but they'll get upset by a team who has no shot at making the tournament in the conference tournament. And that to me, a lot of the times, is more exciting than seeing like a 15 beat a 2 seed. Because when a 15 beats a 2 seed, oftentimes your bracket's busted, and you were really looking forward to seeing that team with some other matchups throughout the tournament. That 15 seed is like, this Cinderella team, what are they really going to bring to the table besides this goofy Cinderella story and whatnot? So, like, you get some of that, but I mean, it is what it is. I like conference tournament time, like I said, for the reason I said it for. As far as the actual tournament itself, I don't know, man. Both tournaments have been really good the last few years. I can't really say the women or the men's have been more exciting. I'll say the women's probably have been more exciting, even though um, there's less of a chance of you finding all these variables where a different team may win a national title on the women's side. I still think sometimes theirs has had a little bit more drama um, from time to time. Even though there's also been blowouts in Final Fours and national championship games on the women's side more than on the men's side. Uh, to me, sometimes the way they play and the intensity of their play is just a little bit taken up a notch. But either way, women or men's, the brackets, the tournaments, conference, the national title tournaments, always looking forward to both. So it is what it is. Um, anything else I wanted to go over or cover or anything else? I'm trying to think, man. I think that was it. Oh, that's what it was. Dante Moore decided to go back to school. This is going to have the Oregon quarterback. This is going to have several dominoes that are going to fall. And I need y'all to follow me and stay with me here for this. Number one, him going back to school means that there's one less top quarterback that was looked at as a top pick in this year's draft that's going to be coming out, which means the next guy up, pretty much Ty Simpson from Alabama, declared for the draft. He now gets catapulted to, instead of some people saying late first, maybe early second, he may be looking at an early first round pick now because teams are quarterback starved in that top five. Jets, Raiders, uh, maybe the Browns might need somebody. You never know. But there's teams that are definitely quarterback starved in that top five. Whereas Simpson may have looked at a situation where he may be brought in to be an apprentice to a guy who's aging and on his way out, like a Matthew Stafford in LA. For example, he may be looked at as, you know what, we may have to take this guy a little bit higher because there are no other prospects and we need to find a guy. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for the NFL draft, and not just at the quarterback position, but at other positions. So what if a team was quarterback hungry? They don't feel confident in taking Simpson, and they decide to go in a different direction and take another player instead because Moore isn't there. They don't feel confident in Simpson. They decide to go in a different direction. Now you have teams behind them who are thinking, "Oh, this player should be available when we're picking." That player is no longer available because now everybody gets bumped up. So that's going to have a domino effect for the NFL draft. Now, when it comes to college football, where I see the conflict is Dylan Raiola just transferred from Nebraska to Oregon. He did that before Dante Moore made his announcement. Dante Moore made his announcement today saying that he's coming back to school. Does Raiola stay? Does he take a red shirt this year and sit? Does he hit the portal again and go somewhere else because he's not happy with the fact that Moore is coming back to school? What does he do? That could put that not only put Nebraska in flux because he already transferred. Now Oregon has two quarterbacks. What's going to happen with that? There could be some other schools out there that may be thinking that they had no shot at Raiola. He committed to Oregon, and now he's. It's just, bro. This is just. I mean, it's created such a good mess, and I'm so happy about it because it's utter chaos, and I love chaos. Y'all know me, like, whew, I just love it. And it says that he will likely back up Dante Moore, which I don't think is a bad idea for Rayola. Like, take a year out of the spotlight, sit back, learn, perfect your craft, work on some of the stuff behind the scenes, like watching film and mechanics and things like that, and then try it again next year. Where he's gonna try the portal again. From what I see, I don't think so. He might. I haven't seen anything today since Moore made his announcement that leads me to believe that Rayola is going to enter the portal again. But you never know. Like, there's still time for him to go back into the portal. So that's going to be interesting to see. Besides all that, I definitely think the NCAA needs to grow some nuts, get a little hair on their chest. I mean, hey, you drink some bourbon, some 100 proof bourbon. Do like this. You just pour it straight in the glass. Don't put nothing in. You just do like this. Take a big swig like that. Let it hit your chest and say, "God damn it, we taking over this shit." Fix the portal, fix the coach and player movement thing, give your offseason a real schedule so that players and coaches can move about in a more professional, less chaotic manner. So that way your sport isn't going through this flux of coaches hopping schools before, during, and after conference championship games during the middle of bowl season, and you still got the playoff going on and a championship game, and now the portal's open. Oh, it's just way too much shit going on. I say a couple of coaches have come out with great ideas. Move the season up a little bit. Play the national championship game right on the first, second, third, that first week of January. Open up the portal after the national championship game. That portal the coach movement thing, all of that should be done by the time February gets here. So that way teams can have things settled, figured out. They can know what their spring practice rosters are going to look like, go into spring semester and spring practice, and be good to go. And you don't have coaches flip flopping schools and schools having coaches on loaner to other schools because they're not ready to leave and they're still playing in CFP and bowl game. All of this is just way too much shit. Make this less confusing, less invasive, and less clunky by just creating a fucking schedule. And all you have to do is get those conference commissioners, sit around the table and say, hey guys, listen, we don't like it no more than some of you guys. Let's all agree on a schedule that we can do to make this better for everyone involved and make the sport more enjoyable for everyone involved. So we can keep making billions of dollars. The money's going to be there. The money's going to be there. It's not going away. It's too big of a juggernaut for it to fall off or for anybody to lose any significant amount of money that's going to make a huge difference. However, what I do see as a problem is the way the schedule is going and the way it gets in the way of things that teams are trying to accomplish still with their season. So I would just love to see the NCAA, like I said, grow a pair, put some hair on your chest, say it with your chest, and come out and set a damn schedule, okay? So that's my little rant for this week. I ain't even want to put no music to it or nothing. It was just something that it's just been bothering me to look at because I see, even though like the school that I love, LSU, the school that I attended, Tulane, they were both affected by coaching changes this past offseason where John Summerall had done a good job for Tulane and took the Florida job. And then you had Brian Kelly get fired because he did such a shitty job. And then they wooed Lane Kiffin to come over from Ole Miss and all of that mess. And just to see how these things tend to go, I just knew that something needs to be done about it. And it's not fair for a school like Ole Miss to lose some of their coaching staff and have some of them on loaners and the players are all of this shit. And they're trying to win a national championship. It's not fair to the schools to have to try to go scrambling for a coach and they're trying to look at a playoff game. They're trying to hire a new coach and coaches are still trying to recruit guys who have made commitments and they're going to new schools and they're leaving other schools. And it's just so much messiness. Create a better off-season schedule. Similarly, look at what the NFL has done with free agency and the draft, and coaches can't interview until their team is eliminated from playoffs, and like they have rules set in place. Put these kind of rules and parameters in place for the NCAA, for the transfer portal, and for coaches to switch schools and take other jobs and interview and so on and so forth. Set this shit up to where if you're playing the national championship game in that first week of January, let's say on a Monday, you should be able that following week or whatever, the portal should open, coaches start to transfer and interview. Matter of fact, coaches can't interview for another job until their team has played and played their bowl game and or been eliminated from the playoffs. Put that rule in place. Players cannot enter the portal until the season is completely over with for everybody. Just make it plain and simple. But when you do too much, you get too much. And right now, the game of college football is doing way too fucking much, and they need to get a hold of. But I'll get off my soapbox. I'll get off my rant. This has been episode 104 presented by Dubby Energy, Sucio Sports. I appreciate y'all for rocking out with us this evening. We'll get back to y'all next week, man. Hopefully we have a good national championship game and we can talk about the setup for these AFC and NFC championship games. Let's see what the ladies do this weekend in Unrivaled. I want to see who's gonna put on another like stupid performance this weekend from those ladies. I also want to keep an eye on the NBA and things that are going on in the NBA and the standings this week. Um, Keep an eye on college basketball too, because like I said, getting into the conference schedule and you're getting closer and closer to March, the schedule starts to intensify. So we should see the level of play and the intensity of play pick up a notch or two in these next couple of weeks. So I'm definitely looking forward to that in college basketball. Um, NBA trade deadline is still coming up. We can still see some things shift and change with that. So still got a lot to look forward to. Oh, Alex Bregman signed with the Cubs this week. I knew it was something else I meant to get to. Real quick, let me address that. I think that there's going to be valuable because of his clubhouse leadership skills that he's going to bring to that Cubs team. I also think that's going to hurt the Red Sox a little bit because you signed him to play third. You had Rafael Devers there. I played third. I played third. Now you don't have either one. Fucking sucks for y'all, but you put yourselves in that position. Um, my only thing is that Bregman kind of showed last year that he still has it, quote unquote. He's still a really good player. I'm just wondering if it was maybe just the injuries and stuff and the mental aspect of the injuries and overcoming the injuries and rehabbing them and everything else and the pressure of being that guy in Houston got to him to the point where he just needs to get out and get healthy and once again prove who he really was. And the Astros weren't willing to pay him what he was looking for, so he had to move on. More power to him. I hope he does well. Always gonna have love for the guy, but let's just see what he does on the north side of Chicago. Okay, cool. For my brother Keys, for everybody else that loves and supports the show, for y'all in the comments and the sections, all 100 and whatever of y'all that was watching, shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all. We'll holler at y'all next week.